Welcome to Summit School, where we show you how to effectively plan and organize an adventure. I'm Vivian, and I've lived in Switzerland for the past 7 years. And I've essentially been mountaineering and doing alpine climbing for the past six. We'll be covering on how to decide which mountain to climb, specifically in Switzerland, how the conditions are, how to figure out how the conditions are, the different mountaineering grades that you have here, as well as the different routes that you can climb, how to find those routes, as well as booking huts. First off, how do you find the right mountain to climb? So I'll go over step by step on how I look into which mountain to climb. I look into several different apps for this, okay? So keep on following. The first one I look at is SAC or SAC or Swiss Alpine Club. So this is actually a paid app in which you pay, I think, about 49 francs per year. Please check the website. But essentially, you get a host of different routes to do, not just in alpinism, but in climbing, in hiking, in via ferratas. And it essentially gives you the entire route and some descriptions on it. So has been very helpful, a very helpful app to use for me to initially find the route. The second one is SwissTopo. So this is a completely free app. So if you're just visiting from from elsewhere in a different country, you can use SwissTopo. It's an app that gives you the different routes, but you have to map it yourself. So it'll give you lots of different lines, and I'll show you this later, and you manually then have to map it. The third one that is kind of in the middle between the two is called Komoot. So Komoot. This one is partially free. You can also pay for it for additional features, but this also helps if you're coming from abroad and you wanted something for free that doesn't cost a lot of money. Komoot helps you look into the different routes that you could possibly do, and it'll tell you some short descriptions on it, just not as detailed as the Etsatse app and the desktop. So, in order for me to find the right mountain, I actually first go into Etsatse. So, let's go into that now. From the Etsatse, we actually have this overall website here, and I always click on the alpinism toggle. And then from there, you maximize it. Now, the next thing you need to know is first, how do I know where to even start? We are looking at the entirety of Switzerland right here. And so, actually, I first check the weather to determine exactly which region I want to go into. So, I go into two different apps or two different websites. Number one is MeteoSwiss, which is what most people use in Switzerland. It's a weather app. The second one is Meteoblue. And then I'll also go into several other websites because you never know how the weather is in the mountains. So it's always good to look at several different places. So MeteoSwiss gives a fairly accurate, a very detailed example of how the weather might be throughout all of Switzerland. Meteoblue also is, I find, has been relatively accurate. So let's say we have bad weather in the Engadine region. Let's say Engadine, so eastern Switzerland, is not good. And then assuming we look to the weather apps and we see, oh, the Vallis area, so Zermatt, that area is really good. So then we'll kind of zoom into that region. So I'll zoom in. Where even am I? Okay, I see Sion. Okay, I zoom in and I see, okay, great, there's lots of mountains here. And the way you see it, each of these mountain peaks here, labeled in purple, are the summits of some of these mountains. So, for example, if you click on Laginhorn, it'll give you the option of alpinism and then it'll go into the grades. I'll discuss the grades in a second. So, you look into these and you look just to determine, okay, how are these grades looking? AD plus, PD, 80 plus. So you find your overall region. So I'm going to stick to the Saas-Fee area, Saas-Grund area, just for more of an example. So let's say we got good weather here. We're going to look. Now, how do I choose from there? How do I choose something that I can do? Like, what if I'm a beginner mountaineer? I don't want to be doing something that might destroy me or might kill me or might be too hard for me. So let's first then discuss about grading. Here we have different mountaineering grades. And in Switzerland, because it is a multilingual country, we have a French grading system, but also a German grading system. Luckily, they're essentially interchangeable, so all you have to remember is which means what. Okay, so we're gonna first go through the grading system. So I have this cute little paper with me that shows me the grading systems. Oh, there we go. No, it's good. So technically, you have 7 different grading levels. Okay. So the first one they call F for facile in French. And please excuse my pronunciation. In Germany, though, or in German speaking Switzerland, we call it L for liked. So if you see L or F, that means the same thing. And what that means is it's essentially just very easy. It's simple walking terrain, like a bit of scrambling, boulders, maybe like a ridge of some sort. And in terms of a glacier, there's barely any crevasses on the glacier. It's relatively safe. So this is perfect for if you're just getting into mountaineering or in alpinism and you want to get started. The second level is called PD for Plus difficile. And the German one is WS, so wenig schwierig. Okay, so again, same thing. PD, WS, same exact thing. And this means not so hard. Kind of hard. Not so it's okay. Okay, so this is mostly walking terrain. There's a bit of steepness. Some of the safety devices are necessary, like crampons, ice axe, things like this. And a lot of them is mostly some less steep drops. However, there's like a few crevasses in there in the glacier. So just be a bit careful. The third one is AD or P or sorry, yeah, AD is assess difficile. And then Swiss German, it's ZS, so ziemlich schwierig. Okay, so here it's fairly hard. Okay, so here you'll need more securing. There's significantly more ridges, more loose rocks, lots of more exposed climbing areas. The slopes are steeper. There's a lot of crevasses on the glacier. So you'll have to really know your stuff on the mountain and out of the mountain. So, for example, I believe Zermatt, Matterhorn is a D. Okay. The next levels you have is D for difficile, S for schwierig. So again, pretty difficult. You should be pretty experienced. And then the last 3 is something that I would not even I wouldn't even dabble in. And I think not so many people dabble in unless you are a hardcore mountaineer, perhaps sponsored by Mammut or or something. Or maybe you're just much more braver than me because I would not even bother dabbling there. But you have TD, which is très difficile, and actually I didn't even write it down on my like the German translation of this because I don't even dabble in there. So TD, and then you have ED, which is extrêmement difficile, extremely hard, and then you have ABO, abominable. Oh my god, abominable, abominable, abominable difficile, which is incredibly hard. So you can go ahead and look at the sites and see the difficulty levels, but I'm just gonna go talk about the general range that most people do. Okay. So, in general, Angus and I try to do between F to PD, AD, and D is something that we would really challenge ourselves and perhaps bring a guide. Okay. Now, that actually doesn't sound like a huge range. That sounds like 3 or 4 levels, but keep in mind that each of these ranges have pluses and minuses. So, if you're doing a PD or WS, you can also do PD or WS minus or WS or WS plus. Okay, so WS can be like a little bit harder, but not quite in the ZS range. Okay, so let's go back into the ETC route portal and take a look at what mountain we can do. So now that we know our grades, let's give an example. So I want to do something relatively easy. not too difficult. So I'm going to look around the PD or the WS range. So let's choose this area for here. We have the Sassgrund, Sassfe area. The way I do it is I look at the ETC desktop and I will then pick and click on each of these mountains. So here I see that in the alpinism section, there is a route here that's a PD. We have Fletchhorn, which is a PD 2D plus. So there are a range of different routes, many different routes on Fletchhorn, and it'll range from PD to D plus. And there's also then Laginhorn, which I cannot click on, but let's say Weissmies has from PD to 80 plus, and that's the big range. And I say, oh, that sounds really good. Let's choose Weissmies. So now we're going to click on this route. And then once you click on it, you're going to get a series of different descriptions. Okay. Now keep in mind that yes, I did say earlier that Etatse is a paid for desktop app. And you have to log in to get some of these routes. However, I forgot to mention that it is indeed free for a lot of these routes. And so if you go on here, and you are from abroad or you don't want to pay for the yearly subscription, just know that you can still use it. It is a very good resource. It's just sometimes limited to certain routes. However, I believe Weissmies is a very popular one, and so you should be able to have access to this for free. Okay, so once you get onto this the link, you'll have actually a really nice description of the route and of the mountain overall. And so here it'll tell you it's an easy 4,000er, but then there's also really big crevasses plus some ice and rockfall. And this is actually correct for sure because I've actually done this route and it is not that difficult, but there are really big crevasses. And it was pretty epic. From there, you also get lots of photos. So you can kind of see generally how the mountain looks, some general conditions. Wow, that looks really cool. And then the routes, where you can choose and it show you the difficulty, the ascent, and the descent. Okay, before I click onto it, I also want to show you the map. So another way you can look into the route is through the map. So once you zoom into the map, it'll show you Weissmies right in the center, and it'll show you all the different routes that you can go up from Weissmies. So let's say if I click on the purple line here, it'll show you, okay, this is the Rotgrat or the Triftgrat. And it doesn't say so much here, but let's say you go on to this one. And this one will tell you, okay, it's a PD plus 2A, which means it's a 2A climbing grade. And the ascent is 4 hours 30, descent is 15 with 1,138 elevation gain. I'm like, no, why don't we do something a little easier? Let's click on this one. This one then says it's a PD, 3 hours 30, 917 meters, descent 20. Descent is not correct though, because then you all have to descend the whole way. But anyways, so let's say I want to do this. I see route, and then it'll go into the description of the route over here. It also, again, tells you the difficulty, how long it is, how much elevation gain, a few more photos, and then just a few more route descriptions, as well as additional information such as how to get there through public transport, but also by car, which is very, very handy. Okay. So then that's how I get my route. You can also, if you do have that paid subscription, you should be able to download this route as a GPX file from ETC. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Another way to do it, though, if you are not able to do that, is you actually then go into SwissTopo. And this is where SwissTopo app is really handy. You are able to make your own tour through SwissTopo so that you can just look at that. And then, for example, here we had Stoss Ridge, in which we made our own tour. It shows you the overall elevation profile. And then the nicest part is that you can export it here as a GPX file. So that's really nice because then you just download it on your watch or your GPX device, and then you have the entire route. Isn't that lovely? The next way to get information about the route, let's say we want to get Weissmies, is through social media. Yes, I know sometimes we're all sick and tired of social media, but honestly, it helps a lot. Go onto Instagram, write into Vicemees, or look at the location for Vicemees, and you'll see a few people who have posted about the mountain, or people have posted around the area. You can then see photos of how the conditions look, and whether or not there's still snow on the crevasses, or if there's none, snow, then you can see the crevasses very clearly or not. And so that makes it really nice. Another way I do it is that if I can't really tell if it's from between now or if that's something that they had posted about a year ago, I will actually then directly message them and ask them, hey, was this recently? If it was, can you tell me the conditions? And usually people are really nice and they do tell me how the conditions are, if it's good, if it's bad, whatever. And I've actually had people also message me and asking the same thing. So, highly recommend to do that. The next thing is, of course, YouTube. So, this is more in a way where you're not looking at the exact conditions of that moment or of the week, but you can kind of see how the mountain looks overall because then you'll see people vlogging like us about these mountains. So, then you can kind of have an idea of, okay, what do I expect? Oh, that part looks a bit sketchy. I should be careful there. So, it's very good to just have a general idea of what to expect once you get on the route. Of course, it doesn't really work for all the mountains because some of them less popular mountains might not get any YouTube or vlogs. But this is where the number three thing that you need to do is really handy. The third one is to call the local mountain hut or the cable car center if there is one. So usually there are mountain huts everywhere and nearby a lot of these mountains. So, for example, for Weissmies, there is actually a hotel, essentially a mountain hotel, that you can take the cable car all the way up there and you're there. So, I would actually highly recommend, and this is what a lot of Swiss people do, is to call those mountain huts. Ask them how the conditions are because they're there. They might have been doing a 2 week stint working on those huts. They will see lots of people coming in and out, a lot of mountaineers. They can tell you exactly how those conditions are and how they will be, and maybe even give you a recommendation like, hey, do this route, do that route because it's better right now. Oh, the snow is really good today, or the snow has been really great this week. Oh no, the weather's been horrible. Don't come. So, highly recommend to do that. Now, the last information I want to show you is how do we book a Swiss hut? Now, there are several different ways to do it, actually. If you're on the Etsy route portal already, you can easily just look, and I will show you here. You can easily just look, and if you go back onto the route portal, oh, huts and tours, rather than clicking on the alpinism, you can click on the hut finder. Very handy. And then I update result list. And then I then look at the map and I say, oh, here's Weissmies. Here are 2 or 3 huts all nearby. Let's say I click on this one. And this is the Berg Hütte Hosas, which is actually the most popular one to get to Weissmies. And you can click on it and it'll tell you actually how far the hut is, the informations, how to reserve it, and yeah, how long it'll take for you to walk up there. So if you want to reserve, sometimes at say there's already a little toggle here where you can just go and let's say it'll be open probably in July, August. I want to reserve this day. And it'll actually show you whether or not there it is available. So it'll show you these green lights, yellow lights if it's almost at full capacity, or red lights where it's at completely full capacity, completely full. You can do that and then press reserve. Another way to do it is actually through this website called Hut Reservation. This is the main platform that most mountain huts use to take reservations. And so you can go onto here and look up your specific hut. And another way is also just to email the hut directly if you know their website. And then the last way to do it is through email or phone call. So, old school method, especially in some of the huts that are very, very small, when which you can't actually reserve online. So then you just call or send them an email. Another thing to note with these huts, at least something I learned, is I would book one very early, especially if you're going in the alpine summer period. Book very early. And what you can also do is book 1 or 2 different weekends in advance. And then you can also cancel, I think, within 24 to 48 hours before with no fees aside from a few other extremely popular routes, like Matterhorn, for example. But that's beside the point. So you can cancel. Just please look at all the stipulations, all the disclaimers for the huts, and read up on the cancellation times and make sure that you followed those. Aside from that, that is how you book your flight. Your flight. Aside from that, that is how you book your hut. So that is all I have for you. I hope that really helps you to book your next trip, your next adventure, more specifically, your next alpine adventure. We will be going over more activities, more adventures in our Summit School series. So, the next one we'll probably have is how to ski tour. How do we plan ski touring routes? And that'll be quite a bit more nuanced. We'll also have a few things like ice plunging, how to do that, how to climb, things like this. So please stay tuned for our next summer school series, and please like and subscribe and comment on how do you do your routes? How do you do your route finding? How do you find the conditions? And how do you plan your alpine adventure? Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you next time. Bye.